Hello, this is our podcast for Generation RX. This is our final project. This is my roommate Aaron, Ian, and Dom. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Feeling good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Good to hear. So the first question is, do you believe drug addiction is a disease or a personal weakness?
Does anyone want to start?
Whoever.
I feel like a lot of the time it starts off as a personal weakness, because it's like a coping mechanism for a lot of people, and then I feel like it can kind of snowball into an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have any like personal experience, but like people will like smoke or drink or whatever, maybe like take Adderall as like a coping thing, and then it's easier to become addicted that way. You know?
Yeah. I think certain people are more susceptible to it, like when you start and you enjoy it. Some people have experiences with drugs and never want to touch them again.
Yeah.
And other people, they touch them and they can't stop, you go back to it. So I think for some people, it is kind of like they rely on it, and other people is kind of like they don't want to be part in it because it doesn't make them feel good. The whole point of drugs is to make somebody feel good or act a certain way, and if it's not making you feel a certain way, you're not going to partake in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and to kind of build off what Dom said, I think that it's really especially for college students, it's really a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Just because college it's a pretty rough time. I mean, there's a lot of highs, but there's also a lot of lows, and so people use it as a coping mechanism to kind of feel some type of way for a certain amount of time. But
True. Yeah.
I think other people do it to, some people do it to fit in. They want to just try it. They're they have strict parents growing up, and they just want to have their own way out. So they just kind of to do it just because it's it's there, and they have a possibility of enjoying something a little bit better. So
Definitely. I can totally see how a coping mechanism could develop into the disease too. So do you guys know anyone who has been prescribed painkillers or opioids?
Personally, no.
No.
yeah, not firsthand.
Not besides like something small for like knee pain or
yeah, exactly.
And it's I have stories from my parents telling me of their friends growing up. That's it though. I know one firsthand. None of my friends, none of my relatives, that kind of thing.
Yeah, nothing long term, short, after injuries and stuff like that, prescribed stuff from the doctor, but nothing more than that.
Gotcha. So in general, for most of the addiction and drug abuse within the country, who would you say is mostly responsible? Would you say it's doctors inappropriately prescribing these medications? Would you say it's more citizens illegally selling, or extreme advertisement from the pharmaceutical and FDA?
I would say it's illegal selling of it's obviously going to be a big factor.
Yeah.
It's hard to know who's at fault. When you're constantly watching TV and you see all these commercials, talking about different medications and stuff and different, drugs and whatnot, it's hard not to just think about that, going to a store and be like, hey, what, can you prescribe me this? And I have these issues. Can you prescribe me something? And maybe doctors are a little bit more lenient to it, certain doctors, and that could be a big issue as well. So I'm kind of I'm not, I don't have a lot of knowledge on how much doctors are an issue, but
it's hard to blame the doctor, because a lot of the time they're giving you what they think you need to make you feel better, and then from that point it's whether you choose to use the drug for good and on yourself or whatever, or a lot of people may take it as an opportunity to sell it illegally, and like people who are prescribed Adderall for ADHD or whatever the case. We see it a lot in college where instead of taking it for themselves, they'll just sell it to classmates or whoever wants it and make some money off that. I think that's a big issue for sure.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think everyone's at fault for it in some way, but you can't really put clear number one person or thing at fault for it.
And it's such a vast problem with so many different aspects.
Yeah.
Would you guys say you have any specific attitudes towards prevention of overdose and addiction? There's naloxone, which is basically reverses an overdose, or any more educational programs within schools or anything?
I think it's definitely an important topic. I don't know naloxone or whatever it was you brought up. I don't know about those drugs that prevent that specifically, but it's definitely important to talk about, because things like rehab and stuff like that are obviously helpful for addictions, but I don't know.
I think education's big. The more you educate kids when they're young, that's when they really get it, dug deep in their heads that, you shouldn't be taking these drugs unless you really have to, like, just because you have some sort of small issue doesn't mean you should immediately resort to some sort of drug, like, if you need it, you need it, but if you don't necessarily need it, you shouldn't go out of your way to try to get it, you know what I mean? Because that's not a good thing. You shouldn't have to rely on that, so.
It's also like you said, people think it's cool or whatever, like some people feel that way. It's like, it definitely is important to learn that from a young age, because it feels like kids are getting younger and younger and trying like
Definitely.
weed and
Absolutely.
cigarettes and whatever. So it's like, but a lot of the time it's like you kind of have to have your own experience to make that decision. Almost, it's like people will try stuff, and like you said, some people will turn it down immediately, and then other people will just continue to do it more.
Yeah, words can only go so far from like a parent's perspective, because like you can only tell, but when the time comes, like you're the one who's obviously gonna make the decision in the moment. So.
Absolutely.
And then I guess the last question is, how much of a problem would you say that opioid drug addiction from prescription or pain medication is to the country? Would you say that it's like a crisis that could impact our future?
I think in certain parts of the country, for sure, certain populations, like, just areas where it impacts more, you know what I mean? Like, growing up, for me, like, I didn't see a lot of that, but I could definitely see how it can be an issue in other areas and in different areas of, because my friends never had an issue with it, my people I was around never had issues with it, so it's interesting for me to see, like, I don't see it as a crisis in my own life, but there's definitely a crisis going on out there for other people's lives, you know what I mean? So definitely, in certain parts of the country, in certain areas, I think that's definitely an issue for sure.
Definitely.
And if we don't stop it now, it's only going to keep getting worse. I mean, like we said in the other question, like kids at younger ages are starting to experiment with drugs, whatever you want to call it. But so if we don't like stop it now, then like this next generation is just going to keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, like, there's really no answer on how to fix it, because
It's-
pain meds need to be there, like, people have these issues. There's no solution on how to stop people getting these medications, and these prescriptions and whatnot. Because doctors don't know. If someone says they need something, it's hard to just refute them, or just, argue with them the entire time about what they don't need, you never know what. And the thing is too, even if they do need it, like, let's say someone's been injured for the first time, this is their first time, attempting painkillers, you don't know if they're going to have that, reaction to it and then keep coming back for other injuries and stuff, you never know what this person, how susceptible they are to these types of drugs, so.
And just because one doctor says no or like rejects you doesn't mean that they're not going to keep trying and go try another doctor and then they'll prescribe you literally the same thing. So
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your
So
time.
you.
yes, sir.
That's it. It's perfect.
Sounded awesome, man.
Yeah, signing off. Motherfucker.
I just wanted to stop, man.
Stop, man.